Good afternoon. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our invited guests from Scotch College, Miss Tania Darling, Head of the Early Learning, Mrs. Eva Hampson from the Head of Junior School, and thank you very much for your time joining our webinar discussion today. The Australian Grammar School, AGS Vietnam, has been working in strategic partnership with Scotch International Education and South Australian Certificate Education, SAIS, with a shared visions of bringing into Vietnam an excellent and sustainable education quality. So to increase our parents' and student understanding and confidence in Scotch College academic excellence, I would like to ask you a few questions about the Early Learning Center and the Junior School. So, Mrs. Tania Darling, can you please share with us about the Early Learning Center? For the young children, what are the main focus on developing the young children's learning curiosity and well-being?
Sure. So our focus with children who are under 5 or under 6 prior to them starting school is that we want to develop in them a real love of learning. Children are naturally very curious, and we want to develop that. We don't want to stifle that. So we provide lots of opportunities for the children to investigate their own interests. We also have a very strong curriculum that involves a lot of intentional teaching. So we have literacy and numeracy and our STEM subjects that are taught with great intentionality. But running alongside of that is what we call the emergent curriculum. And the emergent curriculum is what comes from the children. So if someone comes in and they're fascinated by butterflies, then we're going to be able to adapt our program so that they can investigate butterflies. But at the same time, they'll be meeting all of the criteria that we require for them in our curriculum. The other thing that we have is that we have a great focus on well-being, because we know that well-being absolutely underpins everything that we do. And so for children to be able to reach their potential, it is really important that they have a positive well-being. So everything that we do focuses on their well-being. And that comes first and foremost. So if we're looking after making sure that they're feeling confident and organised and resilient, then we can scaffold their learning from where they're coming from. So I guess it's quite it's a reasonably complex way of teaching, but it is really effective, and the children are very engaged and learn at a very high level.
Oh, that's great. Mrs. Eva, could you please share a little bit with us about the junior school from year 1 and year 6? So for example, like how the junior school classroom curriculum is designed. And the other question is, does the curriculum need to be in alignment with the national curriculum developed by the Australian Curriculum Assessment and the Reporting Authority?
Thank you. So yes, the students start their primary as having had a really rich learning experience in the Early Learning Centre. So our curriculum is designed around achieving a very careful balance between building strong foundations in literacy and numeracy. Traditionally, we would say English and mathematics, but we really want our students to be literate and numerate, which is fluent in the application of those skills across the curriculum. And alongside these areas, we cover humanities and sciences in what is termed a structured inquiry approach. And this allows our students to build their skills and understandings around bigger world concepts. They also develop what we call our general capabilities: critical and creative thinking, innovation, entrepreneurial thinking, ethical reasoning, intercultural understanding, global awareness and sustainability. Wellbeing is also key. Learning is such a social activity that health and wellbeing are explicitly taught at the school, and that aspect of our school culture is reinforced through our weekly student and staff-led assemblies. The national curriculum is a standards-based set of outcomes, and all schools in Australia do have to adhere to it, but it is really a framework for learning, and our community, having high expectations of achievement in the students, see that as a benchmark, and we work beyond it. So the school has got flexibility to design its curriculum with relevant and challenging content to meet and exceed the standards of the Australian national curriculum. We are constantly in a review cycle that allows us to adapt our curriculum to our context So we can change the timing of events if we want to, for example, linking with the Olympics as we did just recently. Each of our teachers recognise that the children are on an individual learning curriculum, so it's a continuum, so that whilst there are levels and expectations at each year level, we need to know where their entry points are, so that those children who are working beyond, we are challenging, and those children who need support receive that as well. Yeah, so the meeting of our children's wellbeing is really key. So again, understanding our children, building relationships is very important. We don't leave it to chance. So we do cover and teach relationship skills, emotion management, problem solving. All of those are part of our curriculum. And then the teachers get to know all of our students really well, so that they can also understand what context and what skills and understandings they bring to their learning. So we have a starting point. We always look at their prior knowledge and prior understandings before we set into any unit of inquiry or any unit of study. We also use what we call student agency, and that's looking for lots of opportunities for our students to have a voice in what they're doing and in their learning, so that they're very engaged. We don't want children just being compliant. We want them engaged and empowered by their learning.
Oh, yeah, that sounds very interesting. So can I just ask another question? And I think that Mrs. Tania also joined me in answering this question. So what is the Scotch personalized learning program, and how the students are nurtured academically, emotionally, and psychologically?
Sure. So when I was talking before about the emergent curriculum, that is what drives our personalised learning. So personalised learning is that for every child, we know where they're at academically, we know where they're at with their wellbeing, and we know what's happening in their lives. So we develop really strong relationships with their families and with the children, and we get to know what's happening in their lives. So that gives us some really strong background information to be able to then link into the things that interest them and are important to them at that time. And so we're able to design a learning program that's very individualised for every child, because we are recording, we have a way of measuring their wellbeing. We do that every term. So we understand where a child is at with their wellbeing and just what it is that they need to boost their wellbeing or to keep their wellbeing at that particularly really positive level. And so that then underpins. So if a child is a little bit perhaps not confident, and we see that as an area that we need to develop, but they are interested in butterflies, then we're going to be giving them some opportunities that revolve around leadership or working with other children, so that they are on the topic of butterflies, so that then they're confident in that topic, but we're developing that sense of confidence in them as well in interacting with other children. So the personalised program is documented. We have that. We talk to parents about that. If a child has some special learning needs that we need to work a little bit more on as well, then again we're sharing that with families. We are connecting with allied health professionals, and we're ensuring that we're doing the very best that we can for every child. But likewise, for some children, they're incredibly intelligent and incredibly motivated, and it is really important that those children have a personalised learning program as well, that they're not forgotten because of their abilities. So we need to make sure that we stretch those children as well. And it's really wonderful in an early learning environment, because we do have an Australian curriculum that underpins everything that we do, but it's a very open curriculum, and we're able to interpret it in different ways. And so we really, in this environment, don't have a lot of the restraints that you have when you go into a school environment. You know, we can teach whatever it is really that we want to, as long as we are meeting those developmental milestones for the children and ticking off skills and so forth that they're going to need for school. So every day is a different day, and we never quite know what's going to happen when we come in each morning.
Yep, thank you. So back to the questions that I'm asking about the curriculum. Could you please share a little bit more about the focus of teachings and learning of Year 1 and Year 2?
Yeah, so the children in the early years, we really want to make sure we've got a very strong foundation in literacy and numeracy. So the way we go about that is using a lot of explicit and direct instruction and teaching there. We use evidence-based approaches. So we use research to make sure that what we're doing is really targeting students' needs. It's very hands-on in its approach as well. So we see that there's a great opportunity with digital capacity and digital technologies, but it's very important that before our children are doing things in a virtual or a simulated way, that they are actually engaging with books and hands-on resources and materials. So we tend to use the digital technologies to capture learning more so, and use concrete materials for instruction, so that children are building understandings and concepts in a really authentic and real way. The children also have what we call signature learning experiences, and that means that we're having a developmentally appropriate approach to their learning. At year 1, the children are developing self-regulation skills, learning those and practicing learning routines, so that when the teacher is working with a small targeted group of instruction, the children can be a bit more independent when is required. By year 2, the children are becoming what we call self-managers. We're working on independence and success. They are more involved in goal setting around their learning in a very teacher-led and teacher-guided way. The units of inquiry that the children are working on at the junior years have got very much literacy and numeracy outcomes embedded into them as well, but they are developing a broader understanding of the world. And from the junior years, in year 1 and year 2, the children are having specialised learning instruction in the areas of physical education, sport and swimming, visual arts, music, performing arts, dance and drama, languages and culture, digital technologies, library, and specialised science. And they are specialist teachers who are experts in their field leading those subjects.
Yep. And so what would be the main focus of teaching and learning for year 3, year 4, and 5? And again, what are the classroom activities and learning engagement and assessment, and how all of those would help the student to achieve the expected learning outcome?
Yeah, so we're developing greater depth to the curriculum and the students' understandings and skills at that level. So we're working more on scientific inquiry and historical inquiry. The mathematics programs, we're making sure that we are looking at the understandings and concepts that they need to take through with them into their secondary years. We're doing a lot of investigation around how they've actually acquired a concept. So there's teacher instruction and teacher assessment is delving into that area. For literacy, we want children not just to be decoding, reading materials. They need to be using their literacy skills at this age and stage for depth of comprehension, to be researching, accessing information, becoming a critical user of literacy at this age and stage. There need to be perspective taking as well. We have signature learning experiences. Again, year 3, the children are focusing on their identity and purpose. So not just their place in our school, but in the wider community and in the global community. At year 4, we're asking the students to step out of their comfort zones and take more risks in their learning, put themselves forward more. So we focus on courage and challenge. And at year 5, the children are learning more around power and influence. And so that they actually are getting involved in some week-long projects which complement the rest of the curriculum. But they are doing a Shark Tank style presentation to a panel where they have to pitch a business idea. They are involved in a simulated 4-day world peace game where they need to learn to negotiate and recognise consequences of their decision making. And they're also learning future problem solving skills as well. They also are engaging in a more extended outdoor education program at year 3, 4, 5, and they're going off and having overnight camping activities.
That's a very dynamic curriculum. So now I'm going to ask about year 6, because we know that year 6 is very important, that when the student will get transited to the middle school. So again, what are the teachings and learning activities, and what would be the expected learning outcome that the year 6 student expected to achieve?
So year 6, we are preparing our students in readiness for transitioning to a secondary learning environment, but it's also taking every opportunity to capture the fact that they're at the top end of our primary school. So we focus on leadership and collaboration as our signature learning experiences. That means that, for example, this week the students have been engaged in lots of science teaching. It's our science week here. they've actually been running experiments for all the children across the school. They need to be able to stand up and present their ideas, lots of public speaking opportunities when children get to year 6, and need to share their understandings with other students as well. We have a 6-pillar program of the wellbeing program. It's called the Live Well program. And by the time the children leave year 6, they need to have some core understandings around values, so ethics, integrity, and empathy. We expect them to have some core understanding around service and service to others as a member of the community, some global citizenship skills, being able to take perspectives, be able to understand about sustainability and their impact on the world around them, and have some greater responsibility around their own health as well. So food and nutrition, physical fitness are key areas. But the again, having really strong foundations in English and mathematics subjects in readiness for their choices and their pathways of learning in the secondary campus.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Eva. And so how about the co-curriculum options that are available to the student, and, you know, about, to share with us a little bit more about the outdoor education program?
Yes, we've got a really broad offering, and some of these co-curricular activities take place during school time, at a recess or a lunchtime. Sometimes they take place after hours. There are the sorts of activities that children might get really interested in through the curriculum, such as the performance arts. We have got then opportunities for them to do extra. So they might get involved in a dance troupe or our Dance at Scotch program or our Highland dancing program. We might have children who are really passionate about learning languages and learning about culture who will get involved in our lion dancing teams. There are writing clubs, debating clubs, poetry. Children can do cross-country running. They can explore sport outside of their normal sport program. There are lots of things that they can get involved in, like chess, robotics activities, and these are all led by teachers at the school within the school timetable of lunchtime and recess, but also before and after school as well. There's also a leadership opportunity for children to get involved in right from the youngest years, so they can nominate for an environmental club, or they can nominate to be on a student representative council or become a digital ambassador for us. Our house program also supports this. So every child belongs to a house, which is a pastoral structure in our school. So they belong to 4 different colour houses, and they will compete in sports days and swimming competition and house music cups, debating cups, chess cups in these sorts of house groups too.
So the student must be very excited to participate in the house activities. Yeah,
they are, yes, and there's a lot going on. And in terms of the outdoor education, each year there's a focus for them. So it might be more of an environmental activity where they're out walking around the coastline and understanding about the flora and fauna in that area. For year 6s, they are currently enjoying an aquatics program.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. Mrs. Tania, and how about the extra curriculum for the young children at the Early Learning Centre?
Yeah, look, we are bound by a lot of compliance expectations and so forth around the way we operate here. So we're a long day care centre, open from 7:15 in the morning until 6 o'clock in the afternoons. Yep. So everything that we do and offer is within our normal program. Because beyond that, once you're looking at beyond 6 o'clock in the afternoons, for children at this age, that's when they're starting to get ready for bed and so forth. So, but within our program, the children do have some specialist lessons. And it's part of our program. So music is a really big part of what we do, especially with children of this age, because they're able to express themselves so well through that. So all of our children have a music lesson every week. At the moment in second semester, we have a dance company comes in and does dance lessons with the children. Now, the important thing with that is that the program that the dance teacher uses has actually been written by a paediatric physiotherapist. So as well as being lots of fun, there are important elements of what they're doing that are part of what we assess and what we're looking for. The children all have visual arts lessons. They have a language lesson once a week. They go to the library once a week. and they also have opportunities with older children within the junior school and within the senior school. So they often have a buddy class, a year 3 class in the junior school. But we also do programs. We're doing this term we do a food unit of work with our year 11 food and hospitality group, and they come down and work with the children and then create a gorgeous teddy bears picnic where the children all have individualised packs of food that are made according to their allergies or likes and dislikes and so forth. But it's really wonderful to see the children, the older children, working with the younger children. And I think when you initially hear about that sort of activity, you think, oh, gee, the younger children are so lucky. But you know what? I think that the older children get as much, if not more, out of the experience as well. We have year 11s come down and do reading with the children once a week, and that was an initiative by one of the year 11 students to do that. So there are lots of rich activities that our children are involved in, but they're involved within that school day, and that's all part of our offering.
Yeah. So now the question I would like to ask you is about the NAPLAN, because we know that the year 3 and year 5 students will take in the NAPLAN test. So could you please share with us what is the NAPLAN result for year 3 and year 5 student, and just in general, how the Scotch students have performed compared to the established standard?
Yes, in fact, we've just received our NAPLAN results, and our NAPLAN results are the National Assessment in Literacy and Numeracy for the school. Our students are high achieving in that area. We always perform very well against the benchmarks of other schools, and I think that our explicit instruction really supports that. NAPLAN is only undertaken by year 3 and year 5 students in the primary school, and it is usually undertaken in the first half of the school year. It is one snapshot or one piece of information for us around a student's learning and their progress over time. So we make sure that we've got other really rigorous assessment procedures in place as well. So early in the year, we will do some diagnostic testing, and again, we use testing that comes from beyond our own school setting, so we can look for where the point of learning is for each child, so we can target where they're up to and what we need to be teaching them explicitly. And at the end of the year, we use something called standardized testing, and that gives us an indication on their growth in their learning in those core areas of literacy and numeracy across a 12-month period. But then we also have just the daily assessment that takes place. So in an Australian school, that what we call formative assessment is very, very important. It's where teachers are collecting regular information about a child and where they're at in their learning. So rather than waiting to get to the end of a topic or at the end of a test, finding a child struggled, we want to know that as we go so we can intervene. So they might give their child, their students an exit card to complete before they leave a classroom. It might be a pop quiz, or it might be another form of just more informal assessment, but regular informal assessment gives us really good data and feedback.
And how about the Early Learning Centre? How the little children was assessed with
Sure.
their behaviours and so on?
Sure. So obviously it looks different in an early learning setting, but we do a lot of assessment. Every single day throughout the day, we're taking observations. So we're noticing what children are doing, who they're doing it with, how long they're spending doing it, if they're doing the same things over a number of days, etc. So we call those observations, and that's where our emergent curriculum, where we're looking at the individual programs for children and their individual interests, is often coming from those observations of what we are seeing and hearing happening. We also do a lot of, again, probably less formal, but one important way that we assess is through learning stories. So a learning story is a story that one of our teachers or educators writes about a moment when they see a child doing something for the first time, or something they've been struggling with, or we call them wow moments. You know, wow, we need to tell the parents about this. So it's a beautiful story that has photos, and it tells about what has happened, and it explains the learning, and it explains where the next learning is going to come from that. So they have learning stories every term. We also have parent-teacher interviews every term. So that's where we're discussing with the parent the things that we've noticed, the things that we're working on, and together the parents and the teacher work out goals for their child, and that's what we tend to work on then for that time. We have our wellbeing scales, and that's our wellbeing measurement. So we do that for every child every term, and that's a matrix that we use where we look at 3 different areas of wellbeing. It's a 5-level scale. You know, for some children, when they transition from one activity to another, they find that really difficult. That gives us a little bit of information that perhaps for that child, when they start school, that's going to be a challenge. So we can put in some more supports for them with that. We also have an occupational therapist who comes in and does a screening on all of our 4-year-olds so that we're getting important information about their gross and fine motor activity.
The next one I would like to ask you is about the assessment. So how about the assessment and school report cards? Are there any differences in the school report card in a standard format comparing to the other public government school?
So there are some requirements here in South Australia and across Australia, in fact, where you have to report to a 5-point scale. So our report cards would look similar to other schools in that respect, where we're giving parents really clear information about whether a child is meeting or exceeding the expectations of the year level on a 5-point scale, but also giving them lots of information about a child's attitudes, their effort, how they attempt all their activities and the progress they're making. So the teachers will make a descriptive comment as well to make it really clear for families what students' strengths are and also the areas for them to focus on next, so the next point of difference.
All right, that sounds all a lot of very good information regarding the curriculum, the assessments, and so on. So I think this is all the questions that I would like to ask for today. And thank you very much, Miss Tania and Miss Eva. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.